Hello, everyone, and welcome. Welcome to the beginning of UX, User Experience 1 and UX Design. And this is the lecture that is you're going to find out what user experience design really is, right? So, to understand user experience design, we need to understand what is the internet. And I know that seems kind of arbitrary and kind of silly to discuss, but I'm realizing that a lot of you don't really understand how the internet works or why it is that we're on these things and designing for these things, right? So we need to kind of just start back at the beginning about what is the internet, right? So the internet is the worldwide publicly accessible network of interconnected computers that transmits data by packet switching. The largest network in the world that can connect any computer to another computer as long as they have the internet, right? Why is it called the internet? It's short for internetworking. The internet was an accident. It was a result of an unsuccessful military and academic research program. It was started as ARPANET, the Advanced Research Projects Agency Network, which was it was started under our military in the United States here. And it was started by the Department of Defense, and it was developed to survive a nuclear attack. That's a theory, though. But the first network was developed in the early 60s, and by the 70s, the scientists and military experts kind of jumped on to it. And it allowed them to share information and research over long distances. And so it was an experimental network, and it was the beginning of what would become the internet. This was an early drawing of the 4-node network that was, there it is. Look at this. Okay, so that's SRI, that's Stanford Research Institute. That's UCLA, that's and UCSB, and Utah. Those were the early places where the internet existed first. Number 1 was UCLA. So, and then it kind of went into MIT, Harvard, all of those places by 1971. And then you can see by 1980 where it was actually in actual use at that time, in the early days. Basically like all of our geographic centers of information and schools. And then this is what it looks like today. I think it even looks crazier than that. So it began, so the worldwide, so we have two separate things. So we have the ARPANET, the internet, right? Started in America, but then we have the World Wide Web, which we began in Geneva, Switzerland, at the lab called CERN, the Council for European Nuclear Particle Physics. And Sir Timothy Tim Berners-Lee, who was a British computer scientist, best known as the inventor of the World Wide Web, made a proposal for an information management system in '89, and he implemented the first successful communication between an HTTP, Hypertext Transfer Protocol, that stands for, client and a server via the internet, sometimes around mid-November of that year. So by adding in graphics and replacing Unix with Windows, the operating system that was then running nearly about 80% of the computers in the world, he mainstreamed a technology developed for scientists, engineers, and the military. As a result, a worldwide grand total of 26 websites in early 1993 mushroomed into 10,000 sites by August of 1995. And then it exploded into several million by the end of '98. So HTTP, it's the Hypertext Transfer Protocol. It's the transmission standard used to send an HTML document across to the World Wide Web. It ensures reliable connections between many different computer types, and it was a common set of standards that ensured all computers connected to the internet would have a common ground of which to work with, a common address, a common transfer protocol. Everyone was kind of on the same playing field. So what is a domain? It's the address or the URL of a particular website, and it tells you where the address is located. It's like a .com, it's a .edu, it's a .gov, it's a .org. And that's the name of the last dot in the internet at the name is to the right of the last dot, right? So you can kind of decide, like in the UK, it's .co.uk. Yeah. Country and then UK. So we have country and then .au, right? Like Australia or Austria. I got to look up Austria's. But you know what I'm saying. So what does the World Wide Web stand for? It stands for World Wide Web. And the internet and the World Wide Web are not synonymous. The web is actually something that is available via the internet. Does that make sense? The internet is a collection of interconnected computers, and the web is a collection of interconnected documents that are hyperlinked and turned into URLs. The network. What is a network? So a network is two or more computers that are connected for the purpose of sharing information. The LAN, or the local area network, is a computer network covering a small area like a home or office. And then the computers are very close to each other in proximity. That's a LAN network. A WAN network is a wide area network, and that's covering a broad geographical area. Most well-known example of a WAN is the internet. So a modem. What was a modem? Well, you kind of still have a modem. It's just different. We used to have this modem that would make this sound, and it would have these sound waves in analog style. Now we have a digital one. You just plug it in. You don't even realize that you have access to the internet because it's just so easy. I don't even need to have a DSL installed. I don't even have a dish anymore. I buy this cable modem from T-Mobile, and I just plug it in, and it works. So privacy in the net. So there is no privacy on the internet. Yes, you can do a incognito window or whatever, but all visits are tracked using cookies and logs. Everything is tracked. Every single thing you can do. You know, where they say there are these pirates, they always get caught. So it's not as free thinking as you think, because everything's pretty traceable and you can trace it back to certain places. But passwords can help protect your information on the internet, which is why we have all these bazillion passwords and everything is confusing. My mom asks me all the time, why do we have all these passwords? And it's really hard to explain, but hopefully understanding how nothing is private and everything is public in our information ecosystem, having passwords is super important, right? You don't want to hand out your bank account information to anybody. And they're getting really good at scamming us. So that is an even bigger threat today. What is a browser? Okay, a browser allows you to look at web pages. We had a lot of different browsers back in the day. Right now, we still have Safari. Internet Explorer is now called Bing. We still have Chrome. And this PowerPoint's a little dated. Opera is no longer. That used to be with Mac. That's gone. Firefox is my favorite browser at the moment. There's a lot of reasons behind that, mainly because I'm unhappy with how Google is creating and controlling the internet. It used to be much more of a free, open society with Google, and now they're not. So I like Firefox is my preferred. All the developers use Firefox, unless they use something even more geekier that I don't know about. But in my day, Firefox was like for the developers, and Chrome was just like for basic browsing kind of thing. This is like what the internet used to look like. It was all text, and it was like hard to read, and it was like a really rudimentary, GUI. We called them graphic user interfaces. It was a GUI. Here's like the old school Yahoo. Here's a newer version. I guess we're kind of still on there. Here's the old Amazon. Here's kind of a newer version. Here's even a newer version. So despite the rumors of the end of the world, we do live in amazing times. More women are getting degrees. The internet has proliferated in a way that has helped a lot of people. And we are working smarter. We're going, I don't know. This is for 2001, so we are yet to collect this data, but we were going up in education and life expectancy. And everybody had homes that are electrified. Look at that. That's when everybody got on the grid. fewer airline fatality rates. Cheaper computers. I don't know. I feel like that's a little bit going up right now. A lot of that price is going up right now. Source of population. So our percentage is up of users. So what is the intentional, so how does the user experience work inside this internet that we're discussing, right? Like how does it correlate? Because it directly correlates. So a user experience design, when I just say user experience, I don't just mean designing for these things. I mean designing like this, right? This has lipstick all over it when it says vinyl is for lovers. How about that side? Designing for a handle for my hand to hold while I drink my coffee, right? That I am a user experiencing this mug that is helping me access my coffee. Back in the day, when the Model T was introduced, it was also a user experience, right? You physically experienced moving without being on the back of a horse. And you got to press all these buttons and do all these things and, hit the gear shift and turn the steam crank. It was like a lot. That is a hell of a user experience right there. Look at that user experience. And then cars got a little bit more friendly, user experience friendly. And look at that dash. Wow, that actually looks really cool. I think we need to go back to some of this. And now today, this is what our screens look like and our user experience of our car. How about our stoves? That's a user experience, right? How do you know which stovetop to turn on with which button? Sometimes I still have this problem. And I don't know why we haven't solved this user experience design problem. Back in the day, it used to just be these, and you would the knob would be right next to it. Now it looks like this, right? And it's even more confusing. But it tells you actually now which ones go to what, right? So this one is this front one, back, front, middle. So going back to this and seeing how we've gone from MSN search to now Google, and this is what we have now, to now smartphones. This is the modern user experience. And this is where when we went from this to Google now to now smartphones, which were invented in 2007. I think I got mine in 2007, 2008. I mean, I was in Silicon Valley. I was waiting in line for that. It was like the coolest thing ever. It was going to change our lives. And it has. It has changed our lives. This has changed our lives. When I was waiting in line, I knew this was going to be the device that would change our lives. I didn't realize to what extent. But here we are. This is what a modern user experience design looks like. And these are our apps now. And that's what we're designing for. So the user experience has to do with storytelling, engagement, objectives, and usability. The user interface, which is the interface on these apps and different things, has to do with layout, the visual design, the branding, and the interactivity. And that's just a good beginning of what is UX. We're going to continue on down the road of creating our own app and our own design for these new devices. And so welcome to class, and I hope to, I can't wait to see what you're going to design in my class. Okay, thanks. Bye.